I'm the Director of Account Management at Tune. We're a mobile marketing company that builds leading enterprise SaaS platforms for marketers and for their ad supply partners. And usually you'll hear us talking a lot about paid acquisition, so today I'm going to switch it up a little bit and talk about virality. In today's presentation, I might just be okay without the mic. In today's presentation, I'm going to share some slides that came from our 2015 Global Mobile Report, but I wanted to leave this up so you can all independently reference the report if you'd like. 2015 was a really huge year for mobile marketers, and for us, we measured across 249 countries, nearly 400,000 gigabytes of data, and that's all impression data, click data, installs, in-app actions. So feel free to write this down and check it out. We talk about the largest countries that we want to pay attention to, like US, but we also talk to users in countries like Syria and Antarctica and how they interact with their mobile devices. So everyone wants an app, and we're going to talk a little bit today about how to make that happen. And it goes without saying that more apps drives more competition, and I hear that a lot from developers, that the equation to get on the charts isn't quite what it used to be. This is weird. So there were actually 400,000 new apps in 2015 on Google Play and the iOS App Store, and then even more on smaller platforms like Amazon and BlackBerry and Windows. So it's getting more challenging, especially if you're a marketer that wants to develop a closer relationship with your key customers. So what I'm going to talk about is how is your app worth sharing, first of all? What really drives virality? How do you maximize sharing buttons? And also, how do you get users to really want to share your app? So first of all, creating something worth sharing. Things people share, they add value, evoke emotions, or seem extraordinary. One that's been particularly weird to me is the Damn Daniel meme. I learned about this today, but for whatever reason, people really like this and they share it and they think it's extraordinary. So just an example of something that can just go viral. So looking at the entire base of Tune measured installs by country, games are obviously massive in every single country, and they average over 40% of the installs that we measure globally. And here are a few countries that ranked particularly high with their percentage of gaming apps across both Android and iOS. And again, this data is for all of 2015 installs that we tracked. Another trend that we see globally is that humans like to stay connected with other humans. So here's the percentage of Tune measured installs for social apps in 7 countries, Japan perhaps being the most social. One interesting note is that while there's obviously adoption for social apps globally, we tend to see a larger focus on social in countries that are in some senses isolated, whether it's customs, law, culture, history, geography. We tend to see higher rates of installs. Music. Music is one of the most consistently downloaded categories globally, and it accounts for 3 to 6% of Tune measured downloads in almost every single country. One outlier here was Mexico, and when I saw this, I actually tapped our BI team and I was like, hey, was this an outlier? And it turns out we removed a lot of outliers, and I guess in Mexico, apparently people love music even more passionately. And then I wanted to talk about travel a little bit. We see here that China has substantially a higher percentage of installs for travel, Spain and Korea coming in a close second. So then I wanted to talk a little bit about what really drives virality, which I don't think will come as much of a surprise. Generally, emotions and vanity. I liked this quote from Jonah Berger. He's a professor of marketing at UPenn. Whether you're selling soda, car insurance, or a presidential candidate, if you evoke emotion, you can increase word of mouth. So you want to create opportunities for users to achieve something that they're proud of, that they can share with their friends, something that makes themselves look really good and generally feel better about themselves. I think that applies to most of the apps I use. And also giving a nod to some top apps in these key categories. We can all learn from these apps in terms of how they acquire, retain, attribute, and generate revenue from users, both around the globe and then also at an individual user level. They have something about them that makes people want to keep using them, and they also have sharing functionality. So talking a little bit more about sharing, when do you share, where do you put your share buttons, and which type of sharing do you use? Here's an example for App in the Air. They used Instagram and WhatsApp to drive 40% of their downloads. So enabling sharing to multiple social networks at once, showing only the channels that users post to and are relevant to the app, and then adding images and texts. I would also say on a more tactical level, you should also take a cohort of your users and determine who's really eligible to share this. Is it someone that hasn't used the app in 2 or 3 weeks? In that case, you probably don't want to be asking them to share it with their friends because they don't even like it that much. And also, another thing you can try out is asking them in app messaging, are you enjoying your usage of this app? If they say yes, then that's also a more likely user that may want to share the app. If they don't like it, then obviously you know not to send that second push notification to share with your friends. And then I'm also going to share a case study about sharing. Don't trick users into sharing the app. Everyone has that moment where you're like, shoot, I just messaged my whole address book, reward them instead. I'll talk a little bit about the Circle app, which was, this went really public in 2013. It was a couple years ago. Some of you might remember it, but when people downloaded the app, they invited everybody. Oh, sorry. And it really increased their user base, but it generally made everyone pretty mad. So this person is going to drop kick someone if they get an invite to join Circle, and this person will punch someone in the throat. So generally, you don't really want to be doing that. And instead, you can reward users for sharing with additional storage, free upgrade, free additional features. For gaming, in-app currency is typically what people do. So some suggestions of a better way to approach sharing. And that's it for me. Open to Q&A. That would be a very interesting case study. I think Vanity is probably a really big one. That's probably the greatest one, if I had to actually guess. But we should probably do a study on that, like which type of sharing is it? Is it, I use this app? I mean, generally people don't share apps just for the sake of telling your friends you use this app. Usually there's some kind of reward, but I would have to guess Vanity. Verticals are just expanding. I mean, when originally most apps were gaming apps, the first apps were gaming apps. So I think as more and more verticals get into the scene, I think there are going to be lots of apps that are going viral for education. What we saw at Tune is it went gaming, dating, travel, and then other verticals like finance, social always was. But I think that the more and more educated people in the mobile industry that are using machine learning algorithms and making very engaging apps, I mean, you probably spend a lot of time in Facebook. They've crushed it from that perspective. I think we'll see a lot more of that. And social is already doing it a lot. I'd say any app that needs users in order to maintain their revenue model will be doing that. Usually people just want some kind of a reward. I see promo codes and coupons a lot for e-commerce and for ride-sharing apps and that sort of thing. For gaming, I typically see in-app currency. And then also, again, segmenting users where you'll get the most return. Not everybody might want to do that or want to share with their friends. I also think that the segmentation is really important because the people who are really fans of your app and they really like it will want to go out and then publicize that. Cool, thank you very much. And feel free to ask me questions about Tune or virality or anything.